When I tell people that Tensei Shitara Slime Dateken, also known as That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, is the anime version of the Age of Empire games that I played back in 2006, 2007, they give me the look. Girl, what now? But before you think I've gone Coco for Cocoa Puffs, allow me to walk you through my thought process. Age of Empires is a series of historical real-time strategy video games that requires the player to develop a civilization by gathering resources and channeling those gathered resources into new units, buildings, and more advanced technologies that will then move the player's civilization from one age to the next. Each civilization is based off actual civilizations and peoples that have existed on Earth and as such have technologies and attributes that are unique to them. As the player moves through the different ages, each advancement is researched and driven by the player's town center. As you, the player, advances through each age, you get new technologies, weapons, and units, which further boosts your input and helps you move along to the new age. Now, why exactly did I spend a good chunk of my introduction to this video talking about this particular game? I mean, you clicked on this thumbnail because you hopefully wanted more anime content, and I've been talking video games to you. Well, it's mostly because I do think that a lot of people who enjoy anime also enjoy video games, and a lot of people who love Tensei Slime particularly would also love video games.
You know I'm right.
There's a bunch of leveling up going on in this anime. Yes, I worked in a solo leveling reference. Which, speaking of solo leveling, I do have some videos about that coming soon. So, if you enjoy anime and manga related content and the occasional video game discussion too, consider subscribing to my channel. I make new anime/manga content on Mondays at 5 p.m. EST. So if you want more of such content, join the family and hit subscribe.
Let's go be psychos together.
So, like I said, there's a lot of leveling up in Tensei Shitara Slime Dateken. Rimuru does the most evolving and growing in the story, but the rest of the citizens of Jura Tempest Federation, especially the officers that answer to Rimuru, also grow at a rate that is exponentially mind-blowing in the world of the story, so much so that their enemies find it terrifying. And then you have characters like Guy Crimson, who is entertained and also quite happy because of further plot points that I'm not about to spoil for those who have not read the light novels yet. Now, for those who have no idea what Tensei Slime is about, Tensei Shitara Slime Dateken, or That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, is an isekai anime that follows Mikami Satoru, a 37-year-old manager who works in construction, or worked in construction, until a meeting arranged by one of his junior at work results in him being stabbed while trying to protect said junior's partner, and he ends up dying, then getting reincarnated in another world as a slime, who in the very first episode befriends the storm dragon Veldora and then gets christened with the name Rimuru Tempest. And the story flows from there, following Rimuru, who is interacting with this new world with the memories of a 37-year-old who prior to his death was living in Tokyo. Now is in this medieval world filled with goblins and direwolves, ogres and demons and heroes and vampires, where he would rather just mind his business and keep going about his day. However, he steps in to help those who reach out to him, and next thing you know, is overseeing a region and keeps getting power-ups. Now, I do think that the power-ups is the reason why you have a lot of anime fans who got into That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime and thought that the focus of this story is that it's a battle manga. And to be quite honest, I can see why. There are a lot of fights. We keep getting introduced to new characters, some of which challenge Rimuru or want to cause harm to the people under his care, which often results in Rimuru fighting them, defeating them, and absorbing their powers in a form of mimicry. He is a slime after all. And no, this is not a spoiler. Rimuru's unique skill, Predator, is revealed in the very first episode. So because each victory actually serves to make Rimuru Tempest stronger, there is an investment on the part of the reader to see Rimuru keep winning these fights so he can grow stronger. And because his power-ups also trickle down to the monsters he's named and therefore is responsible for, this investment extends to them as well, especially the 12 Guardian Lords, Benimaru, Geld, Gabiru, Ranga, Shion, Kumara, Zegion, Alderman, Diablo, Testarossa, Ultima, and finally Carrera. And because the fights are also just plain magnificent, with Rimuru being OP, which means that for a long time his fights are not as difficult as one would expect, there's the desire to see him triumph, show how much better he is than others who will step up to him. Are there some people in the fandom, therefore, who are sitting with the hope and dream that eventually Rimuru would be defeated for the sake of plot and storytelling? Yeah, they are. Are they going to sit in that expectation until they turn to bone and dust like Alderman? Most likely. Because it is pretty clear that Mikami Satoru is Fuz being the writer of the story, is Fuz's self-insert character, which means Rimuru Tempest, it can only go up. If you want something else, then this is not the story for you. But if you're someone like me who enjoyed Age of Empires and played that game until your computer was hanging by a prayer and a hope, and then deleted everything else on that computer except for Age of Empires, so that was the only thing that HP, Ewert Prekard, what's the name of that laptop, I don't know, HP existed for, then this story, that time I got reincarnated as a slime, is the story for you. Because the premise is legit. This middle-aged man wants to grow a country where he can get all the amenities and utilities he enjoyed whilst on Earth in Tokyo in this fictional world. And thanks to some well-placed skills, all hail the great sage Raphael CL, Rimuru is able to slowly make that dream a reality. He's created this world where he gets all the conveniences he wants: hot water, bathrooms, saunas, theater, manga, surveillance equipment, and the yummy food he's accustomed to. And that is what drives him. Rimuru Tempest is driven by a desire to create the world he wants and share that world with the people who matter to him, the people he feels some sort of responsibility to. And so whenever any of that is threatened, he reacts appropriately, putting an end to such threats, because the end goal for him is to live his middle-aged dreams. Maybe the reason why I'm so drawn to that is because I'm 33 years old. I'll be 34 in like 3 months. And honestly, if I had been born or called into the world, I would have totally pulled a Masayuki, found a way to get to Tempest, throw myself at the feet of Rimuru and ask for his protection and the opportunity to settle in Tempest. I can totally get along with all the monsters, and I will look cute holding a Rimuru umbrella and having drinks with Rimuru ice cubes. That is the life, and that is the life that Rimuru wants, which is why it is crazy to me that you would have fans of this story who are confused and irritated by the first couple of episodes of the latest season of Tensei Slime, which, if you do not know that season 3 of Tensei Slime has started, now you know. But you see them complaining on Crunchyroll about how nothing is happening and this part of the story is dull. Which, what? We just finished a major war facilitated by Clayman, and right now Rimuru and the rest of his officers are dealing with the aftermath of that. Simple things like, how do we treat prisoners of war? How do we create a system that takes into account the remnants of the attacking army? How are they integrated into the recovery efforts? How do we rebuild the things that have been destroyed in a war? How do we maintain order, especially when you're using labor from those who've lost the war? How do you motivate these people who are probably thinking about the possible loss of their lives after the recovery efforts are done? How would the city look like post-war? And with this war spanning multiple countries, how do we bridge that gap? How do we handle any insurgency that might pop up? That is the whole point of having things with Falmouth approached that way. What do we do about the destruction of the capital city of Eurozania? And now that that country has been annexed, with their king swearing loyalty and fealty and becoming the aid of Milim, how do we unite these places, especially with Frey and her harpies in the mix, taking into account their love for high places? These are questions and concerns that a demon lord like Rimuru has to take into account, especially with the expansion of his territory and him having to lay claim to that authority that gets him. And we've not even talked about the terms of Jura's alliance with the Holy Empire of Lubulus and how the construction work that would entail. That time I got reincarnated as a slime is a story that is about building a country and eventually an empire. It's about having alliances and removing threats and thinking of how to grow your economy and bring value to your citizens to improve their state of living. And that is what makes this story so unique and just an absolute favorite to watch. You get all the great and epic fights, and you get to see power and machinations and nation building strategies. If you're reading the manga, you know that the most recent chapter ends with Rimuru wanting to address matters with the traders. That is the story we've signed up for, and it is a good story. It is a fantastic story. The fights are not going to happen with such frequencies because most countries don't seek to be constantly at war. You can't build a nation when you're warring. And so to keep things balanced, the writer has to give us a little bit of both. So rather than complaining when it's time for peace, and Rimuru is talking about creating a founders festival and how to treat the prisoners, enjoy it. Enjoy it so, like Rimuru, you know what is at stake when the next war rolls around, and you need to kick ass in order to protect the peace of Jura Tempest and all the wonderful things that have been built. Enjoy it. Breathe. See how Rimuru is growing as a ruler. Because it's one thing for him to be an overseer at a company, and now he's overseeing a country and watching how far he's come and how much better of a ruler, how protective it becomes of his people. It's just a beauty to see. Watching Rimuru grow as a ruler is just as satisfying as watching him grow stronger as an overpowered entity that would eventually reach a point of untouchable, unstoppable power. And to act like being able to see him do both, be both, isn't the point of the story. It's just doing that time I got reincarnated as a slime a huge disservice. And you know what else would be a disservice? Not liking this video if you enjoyed it. Consider subscribing to my channel as well if you aren't. And if you want to and can afford it, consider supporting me on Patreon. It helps me make content, and I'm creating a community of fellow big time nerds on there. Also, like I said previously, I make new anime/manga related videos on Mondays at 5 p.m. EST. Until then, remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.